I didn't win the Pulitzer this year, which means I have to sit in the didn't win the Pulitzer section of my local watering hole, which is actually a cafe called the Blue Moose. Gary, the owner, won a Pulitzer a few years ago for music, something experimental involving guitars, banjos, and an espresso machine. I can't remember a single note of it, except for the grinding of the espresso machine. But I remembered how he performed it, with a grin. It seems all Pulitzer winners acquire a grin, which in grin speak says, I won the Pulitzer and you didn't, loser. The grin doesn't actually say loser. I added that part because, let's face it, it's how I feel as I sit here sipping a decaf latte in the didn't win the Pulitzer section. This used to be the smoking section, when smoking was permitted in the Blue Moose, and I can still taste the nicotine in the air. It's giving me cancer. I can feel it in my lungs, black dust settling in for a siege. Pulitzer winners never get cancer. Gary is going to live to be 100. That's another thing his grin says. The other thing it says is, remember that girl you used to have a crush on in high school? The one with the Italian name and the French haircut? Well, the other night, his grin doesn't actually contain ellipses. I added those because I didn't feel like repeating his story. It's long and graphic. Children might be listening. So might future Pulitzer committees, which would be tempted to award him next year's prize in erotic nonfiction. If this were to happen, he would live to be 200. His grin would become a billboard. He would sleep with the girl I had a crush on in college and her 4 roommates. There are great artists and journalists who have never won a Pulitzer, but they are all dying of cancer. Winning a Pulitzer, my friends tell me, isn't a matter of life or death. If you believe that, I'll show you my Nobel Prize. Last night, I untied the endless knot. It took me 37 years and 14 days. It would have taken me 37 years and 15 days, but yesterday, sensing the end, I decided to keep working after dinner. I finished at 13 minutes before midnight. Despite what my friends and family said, it wasn't a Sisyphean task after all. This isn't to say I know what it all means. I have no idea, no guess even. I could, I suppose, spend years mulling its implications. But strange to admit, I already missed the feel of my fingernails. Always too short, it seemed, no matter how long I grew them, digging in. There are other knots, a stranger, a woman, if this matters, told me this morning. I shouldn't seek them. I know the price and sweat and years, but what if? What if there was a knot I could undo with a single finger? Or this, what if I merely whispered and the weight in my palms unraveled like light across a landscape at dawn? Helen and I play Scrabble with a woman we've met at the party, a blonde in a repeal and Yankees cap. She tells us her name, which we soon forget. It doesn't seem important. In Guatemala, she says, she has 6 names. That's the great thing about living in another country. You can be several people at the same time. Helen and I, new here, only 2 months, trade smiles, having been warned we'd meet Americans who straddle cultures in strange and unhealthy ways. Every time Helen and I meet, we mention the woman and her multiple names, although with less disdain after my neighbors come to call me Don Marcos, and I respond to their street salutes with regal waves, and after she, Elena, and Señorita Ellie, and it dances, Elenita, quien electrifica, gets pregnant, marries, and becomes Senora Reyes. Helen, it's Helen again, returns with her family to Ohio, and in letters we never fail to praise the woman, a hero, brave enough to admit to everything she was. I don't want to lose you, but in the movement of my everyday, I do. Sometimes I hear you on the A train or from the kitchen of La Pampa. Shy, I don't intrude. It is my fault, you'd say. Once ardent, I have cooled, returning full-hearted to her I left, but never abandoned. How could I? She was with me when I was born, comforting me in rhymes and songs. Still, I wooed you, didn't I? In cornfields and cantinas, and after months, you surrendered. You came to me even in dreams, la lengua de la poesía. But I also knew your crass side, puchica, and loved it too. You haven't followed me as I wanted, and if we meet now, it is by chance and briefly. I am lazy in love, besides she offers me so much, but some mornings I wake speaking you like a promise of another life. Take away these photographs, please. The faces should be familiar to me, but all I can tell you about them is that they're young and beautiful, like a melody I can almost hear. If you'd give me the first note, I swear I'd remember the entire song. I'd sing it until I died. You will never be the president of anything except perhaps the big underwear society because, as your oldest daughter proclaimed the other day at breakfast, you have the biggest bum in the world. You will never be carded by anyone but the most officious nightclub bouncer or the most ingratiating liquor store clerk. You will never win the Yale series of younger poets. Although you will be sure, pretty sure, at least 0.1% sure you would have won the prize this year had you been eligible. You will never be called a prodigy. You will, however, be called prodigious in appetite, for example, most likely by your oldest daughter when she learns the word. You will never walk the hallways of a high school and be mistaken for a student. You won't know what's cool anymore. You won't even know if the word cool is cool anymore. You will be 95% certain that cool still means on the cold side, however. Your ex-lovers will no longer haunt you with their youthful beauty. They will haunt you with their mature beauty and their inherited wealth. You will at last understand your grandparents. You will miss them even more. As your hold on the earth becomes day by day more tenuous, it becomes more tender. What you've left hurting, you vow to heal. You will rise earlier and earlier every morning, and one especially early morning when you're feeling especially good, the kind of good you never felt before at this hour, except perhaps in dreams. You will call yourself the rooster. And you will whisper, cock-a-doodle-doo, to the adoring mirror. You will attempt the same performance that night in your bedroom in front of your wife, with a couple of muscle flexes thrown in. You are 98% certain she will shake her head, though with a smile, and turn off the light. You will gamble, of course, on the 2%. You've already lost 40 years, but you still feel lucky.